so I can see what's going on. Oh, here's the thing to say go live now. Okay, now I'm live. Boom. All right, I think we got it, fellas. If you in the chat, say something so I know y'all in here and all that other good stuff. I don't know what the hell that is. Comments, boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna switch over to the YouTube one. Concurrent viewers 5. I don't really know what's going on. All right, so it looks like I'm good, y'all. If y'all, I can't. If y'all hopping in, if there's some people in here right now, okay. Milo Stark just said good morning. What's up? Appreciate that. To the folks that's on Instagram, I'm trying something new. I'm trying to be this little a tech guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm being very positive right now, but we're talking about something very serious, and I want to make sure that everyone is tapped in for that. Okay, I'll be jumping between, but I also want to make sure that everyone is boom, folks in here. What's up? So first and foremost, y'all know that we do the work with Black Guns Matter. You know we have the Solutionary Center. We are asking for everyone to donate towards the work. GiveSendGo.com/solutionary. We have a daily goal of $125 donors. Okay, so that helps. If you're in here, you got questions that you want to ask, we're going to go with the super chats. I'm going to give some love and energy to the folks that's doing the super chats. It's very important. As well as I just want to make sure that we're engaging everybody properly. All right, so let me make sure that everything's set up correctly. Okay. Milo says, what's up? Love for Liberty says, what's up? Don Trulio says, what's up? Daniel Ploth says, what's up? I appreciate you all. Okay. Real quick, guys, the entire purpose of this particular live was a few days ago. Again, if you're on Instagram, this is on YouTube as well. Go to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Black Guns Matter. Very important conversation that we're about to have. We did a live on this shooting, I want to say a night or two ago. We posted it to the YouTube channel, the official Black Guns Matter channel. And I guess the archive just maybe it was too long, but we archived it and it was gone. So because and there was a lot of information that happened on that particular live, and so we wanted to jump in, and so I could give y'all some more information. We went over a lot of books. This live is not about your political views. I don't care if you're pro-gun. I don't care if you're anti-gun. I do not care if you're Democrat. I do not care if you're Republican. I'm a libertarian. That's number one. And the reason why I'm saying that is because overwhelmingly a bunch of people jumped into the anti-gun rhetoric after this Texas massacre. And that's not going to solve anything. I literally just got off doing an interview with BNC, the Black News Channel. And I was on there on a panel. It was me, the actual host, and a young lady from Moms Demand Action. And in being from Moms Demand Action, of course, shouts to Don Trulio with the super chat. Let me see. Why did I put that up there? Yeah, I don't know how to do that. Shouts to Don for that $20 super chat. Nonetheless, everything went very well, but the argument automatically went to the anti-gun agenda. And like I told the young lady on the BNC News situation, I said, on the ground, when something like this happens, it has absolutely nothing to do with your political stance. The bad person does not care about the rules. They only care about the rules to the extent that they can go to a place that they are able to murder innocent people. And we saw in the Buffalo shooting, the young man, and I do not want to get into whether it was MK Ultra, whether it was a conspiracy theory. I don't want to get into that. Whether it was or it wasn't, there were still people that were able to be harmed, and they were a bunch of soft targets. Okay. So this conversation isn't about whether you're anti-gun or pro-gun or any of that situation. This conversation is more about what can we do in the moment? What is the current, before I say that, what is the current protocol or systems in position for administrators, teachers, school superintendents, whatever, and local, state, and federal rules to how they engage active shooters. And obviously, I have someone that has been a teacher for about 18 years, and I'm going to do a live with her and talking about their protocol. But I do have some information about the protocol. Um, so I'll go into that. First and foremost, run, hide, and fight is the general acronym or the system that they tell students, instructors, and so forth and so on to deal with when there is an active shooting. Stop for a second. All of this conversation about there shouldn't be the need for this to happen in America, that helps nothing. The reality is evil exists, evil people are fucked up, and on the ground level, we need to make sure that we're empowering people with the information that they can protect themselves in these scenarios. If you're just coming into the Instagram page, please hit the like button. Again, this is streaming on, if y'all see me looking between two different screens, this is on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Black Guns Matter, as well as this Instagram channel, okay? If you're on Instagram, on the YouTube channel, follow Big Daddy Toure. That's my Instagram that was removed, and now I'm down to 15,000 followers and whatever. So follow that, Big Daddy Toure, at Big Daddy Toure. The biggest thing is on the ground level, are we hamstringing people that we say that we identify as caring for our children? Are we hamstringing them by giving them bad intel, bad training, no training, and then hamstringing them further by saying, even if you're a licensed to carry citizen as an instructor, because this is a gun-free zone, you can't bring your firearm in here. And again, some data on that. Since 1991, when Joe Biden crafted the legislation for gun-free zones, it was him. Our current president crafted the legislation for gun-free zones. Okay, in 1990, 1991. I think he wrote it in 90, and then it became legislation in 1991. Since then, over 90% of mass shootings are in gun-free zones. Now think about that. It wasn't the case before the gun-free zones. 90% since then, all of the mass shootings are in gun-free zones. So the first step would be repealing gun-free zones. They do not work. They do not work. As evidenced in Buffalo, this kid decided to say, write a manifesto, I'm going to go kill black people. I know there's a lot of black people in this section of Buffalo, New York, and I know that the gun laws are as such where they will not be able to defend themselves. That's literally what he wrote out. Literally what he wrote out. Okay? And when we're having that type of honesty, we should learn from it. When we're having that type of honesty, we should learn from it. Again, and that ties into the data. 90% of mass shootings since gun-free zones were created are in gun-free zones. Okay? So that's one. Thomas Massey created some legislation. He's a person down in D.C. from the great state of Kentucky, buddy of mine. He introduced legislation, freedom fighter, more libertarian-leaning Republican. He introduced legislation that, in essence, said, we are going to repeal all gun-free zones, period. We should get behind that. We should support that. That's 100% accurate. So that's the first step, repealing gun-free zones. Now, when we're talking about training, and we're talking, again, if you're tuning in, this is not about your feelings. This is not about your anti-status. This is an approach to what we can do based on data and math and what the human body does, and training and proper intelligence and proper information to give children or humans, Americans, in any setting, the means to defend themselves in a mass shooting. There are organizations like Faster Saves Lives in Ohio. I always recommend them because they were like one of the first people to do it, and it's very important. And the work that they do in regards to taking instructors, teachers that choose to want to train and carry a firearm, and they are on site to train those instructors, as well as it's all voluntary. Okay. That means the teacher would have to volunteer to say, I want to get training because I want to have the means to defend life if need be. Faster Saves Lives has had overwhelming support from teachers and educators that want to potentially protect the children and train. Okay, so that's one avenue. We can actually train instructors on proper firearm safety, storage, usage of firearms, transportation, all of those different things that they already go through if they're already a concealed carry weapon holder. Okay, we would stop hamstringing them right at the door. Okay, another thing is, again, going back to the run, hide, and then fight. When you say to a young person, right, in this unfortunate and tragic scenario, these were babies. These were babies. Babies, their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. In humans, it usually develops around like 25 years old. So even people that are like 21 years old, you're still kind of stupid, especially if you're eating a bunch of bullshit, calcifying your pineal gland, all of the dietary things that in America are impactful to us, that damage us and damage our development, our cognitive development, all of those different things. So in these babies, they already don't have a prefrontal cortex developed. Okay. Then we're telling them run, hide, and fight, but we're not translating to them what run, hide, and fight actually means. We have had an entire generations of people saying that fighting is bad. You're told not to hit. You're told even if someone hits you, you tell somebody else. So we're telling somebody to run, hide, and fight, and we haven't taught them where to run. What are we hiding from? How do we hide? When is there an opportunity for us to get out of hiding moment to fight back? What does fighting mean? These are all things that are horrible in the process of what we're telling educators and administrators on how to potentially defend life in that scenario. We have scenarios in West Virginia where this shooter shot 30 people, and many of them were barricaded, hiding and barricading. That's another thing that they say, barricade. They were pushing furniture and chairs and potentially trying to throw books at someone coming through pumping rounds. That shit does not work. It does not work. Bullets are not stopped by books and furniture. And the other argument is they'll come in and they'll say, well, lock the door. The shooter shot through the lock, shot the door. Again, when we're telling people to do things, we have to give them practical information to accomplish a goal. Just saying run, hide, barricade, or fight without telling them any training associated with what you're telling them to do is a recipe for disaster. Okay? I want to go through some of the books real quick. There are certain things that are very, very violent. Gun fights and shootings are very, very violent. M.W. Knox says almost all of these shootings were perpetrated by young men with no friends. Guess what the lockdowns created a lot of? People with no friends. Okay, again, shouts to M.W. Knox for that $5 super chat. If you got super chats and questions or comments, want to promote something, please do a super chat. All of the money goes towards our work. Okay. Shouts to everybody coming up to the Solutionary Center, going for classes. Classes are on Wednesdays at 7 and Saturdays at 3 for basic firearms understanding. Okay. Now, America, our nation, was built and founded on violence. I don't care how you feel about that. We had a revolutionary, I say we, I wasn't alive. This nation had a revolutionary war that they separated from Britain. Then this nation had a civil war to fight about the separation of the Union, which was violent. Then the expansion of America was killing indigenous people to this land. That's what it is. You may not like it. You may not like the outcome, but that is the history and the facts of the matter, which means America was founded on violence and maintained through violence and money. Okay? You have to prepare for violence. Okay? I'm going to go over these books as we continue to go. Facing Violence, Preparing for the Unexpected, Ethically, Emotionally, Physically, Without Going to Prison. This is by Rory Miller. I'm going to type up some of these books and pass them as we have in this conversation. Okay? For us to pretend that the psychotropic meds, which most mass shooters are on, okay? To pretend like psychotropic meds aren't a thing. To pretend like our diets aren't horrible. To pretend like mainstream media contradictorily highlights violence and doesn't talk about the outcomes or conflict resolution or mitigation and things of that nature. To pretend as if putting our heads in the sand is going to solve this is the biggest lie ever told. Okay? It's the biggest lie ever told. And it does not serve our young people in any way, shape, or form. We are in a place where violence is possible. Now, does that mean that violence is the dominant theme? It is not. Okay? Less than 1% of all violence in America is mass shootings. Less than 1% of all violence in America is mass shootings. So on a percentage wise, and I'm going to be clear when I say this, I'm saying this not to be a jerk. I'm saying this because we have to look at the seriousness of what we're approaching, and how we're being a bit contradictory in other areas where there's actually more violence. All of it is wrong. Hobbs 2324 for that $10 super chat. Appreciate you there, brother. He said nothing to add, just appreciate the work. Appreciate you too. All right. Again, if you're on the Instagram page, shoot over to the YouTube. Help if you can. Put it on Twitter. Put it on whatever. Put it on Facebook. Okay. Share this content. So the violence is a thing. The psychotrops to all of these things are a thing. The lack of information is a thing. And our job is not now to fall back. Our job is to, if we are people, especially if you're in these lives, you understand the importance of personal protection and self-defense. Our job right now, the people that are anti-gun, and I'm not talking about the people that just generally want to take firearms. I'm talking about the people that are impacted from this type of violence, from this type of ignorance and negligence, that genuinely want these things to stop. It's our job to give those objective in the middle people, not people that's just like, I hate guns, guns are bad, guns are bad. I'm not trying to reach them. Okay. You're not going to reach them. Your job is to reach the person that is saying something has to be done differently, because they're at least like, well, damn, if they're paying attention to what the Buffalo shooter said, that person recognized that this guy literally said, we're going to go here and shoot black people because they can't shoot back. So your job right now is to share information with people that are at least open to hearing you about what actual personal protection looks like. So again, run. Where are we telling these young people to run to? In a shooting, in a school, which is mostly concrete, all right, and stone. Most of these public schools are stones, okay? When a shot rings out, you're telling them to run, but they can't even generally hear because sound echoes. They don't have on, ear protection. Sound echoes. They don't know which way to run. And we haven't trained our administrators to tell them which way to run. So that's a problem. That's a flaw in the process. Instead of pretending like we don't need to train and have a system in place, a personal protection plan in place, like a fire drill, so forth and so on, we just say run. Not factoring in the actual science of what happens in a shooting, especially in an enclosed space. Okay? Then we say hide. Hide where? Okay, you hide in the classroom and you barricade, but there's no one there to protect life when that weirdo comes through with a firearm to pump rounds into people. Then we're saying teachers that choose to already be concealed carry weapons carriers, they don't have the right to protect life in there. We're sending our children to these people that we say care about our babies a lot, but we're hamstringing them from protecting if need be. And again, less than 1% of this violence in America, less than 1% is mass shootings. Okay? So run, hide, and then barricade, and then fight without telling anyone what to do. That is stupid. Here's another thing about this whole run concept. And again, guys, as I continue, I'll put up more books. This is Meditations on Violence, a comparison of martial arts training and real world violence. This is also by Sergeant Rory Miller. Okay, I will save this live again. And again, if you're just coming in, hit the like button, hit all of that other good stuff to help boost the algorithms. In a highly stressful situation, the hypothalamus, your body produces chemicals. Okay, that's why a lot of times when we train, sometimes you'll hear guys training with loud music to try to simulate a high stress environment. Okay, we do this because we want the human body to be as close to real life situations. We want to train damn near harder than it will be in the real world. Okay, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, I'm doing 10,000 shots today. He's not going to take 10,000 shots in a game, but in doing so, you're already at a certain level of used to being at a certain level of training that the real game seems a lot easier. Terrence Butler just did a $5 super chat. Appreciate the book recommendations and the work you do. Thank you, Terrence. Appreciate that. If you got questions, comments, please do a super chat. All of the money goes towards our work. So we train to highlight those stress levels. So how are we operating under fatigue? How are we operating under a bunch of cortisol dumps in our brain, a bunch of adrenaline, a bunch of dopamine? There are scenarios where, and when the animal brain kicks in, for lack of a better term, animals in the fight or flight response, one of the final responses is the animal just passes out. Because in the animal kingdom, this concept of the predator will not eat tainted prey. So it'll fall out and people will pass out. So you're telling somebody that never trained for this, don't have a plan of attack, no information, not factoring in the biochemical things that happen in a shootout, in a highly stressful situation. Some of those students will pass out. We've seen Michael Jackson is one of my favorite artists of all time. We've seen people excited with joy and pass out by the boatloads at a Michael Jackson concert. That's what stress does. So if we haven't communicated the stress concept to the teachers, the students, all of that, because we're trying to avoid it, then we're telling them this thing to do and it actually doesn't help. We're setting them up for failure. Okay. Let me go through another book real quick. Boom. Building entry and room clearing tactics. Let me show this to everybody. Building entry and room clearing tactics. You should know how to clear a room. And this isn't even just for school shootings or anything like that. This is also should be for someone who is just in your house. Putting the information in our head so we can translate that information to the people that actually care. Okay. Now, I want to talk about this hide thing a little bit. Hiding generally means you're not paying attention. You're not looking. We have this tendency where we say, hide under a desk. If I'm hiding under a desk, I cannot see what the fuck is going on. We're telling young people to hide under a desk, and that is not an effective means. Hide until when? Are we saying hide and then if you're on the floor level or maybe the first floor of a building, hide and then potentially get to a window? There has to be critical planning and approach for each portion of this thing. Derek Rogers with the $10 super chat. Appreciate you. There has to be some sort of planning and strategic, this is why we do this and this is what we do it for. What we're failing to do is give our instructors and educators the tools necessary because we're pretending as if this is something that is just not supposed to happen, and it does. Outside of that, for one quick second, here's the part that I neglected to. If you're just coming in, we went over a few things, but I want to also say this real quickly. The first thing that I said was support the repealing of gun-free zones. 90% of mass shootings since the 1991 rule that was written and co-authored by Joe Biden, over 90% of mass shootings have been in gun-free zones. That ties into all the way to just last week when the Buffalo shooter said, I'm going to shoot in places where no one can shoot back. Okay, first step, get in contact with your local representative, and you should be screaming to repeal all gun-free zone laws. Thomas Massey presented the legislation and it exists. Okay. Secondarily, outside of that, you should be thinking about taking your children out of these schools. Let's be real. They are not the haven of intellectual stimulation as they pretend to be. We're now having conversations about gender wars and gender and all of this and you're not talking to my fucking child about anything sexual. My 6-year-old that I have custody of that lives with me is homeschooled. Okay. Now I know some people will say, well, Maj, you sounding kind of about like, oh, if you don't like the gas prices, just go get an electric car. No, I will challenge you to, if you're saying that your children's well-being and intellectual stimulation and stability is priority one as a parent, but you're not making the right financial decisions or being frivolous with your finances, because let's be clear, a lot of the bullshit that we spend our money on should not be spent on. You aren't investing properly. You aren't, and I'm not coming at anybody, but as your brother, young elder, OG, baby G, whatever I land on for you, I have to be honest with you. If you are not taking your financial scenario serious enough that you're making allocation to homeschool and get your child out of these government schools, and then you're placing them there, and then you're not engaging with the actual administration, your superintendent, your teachers, the teachers, you're not involved. And then after that, you don't even know if your school has an armed guard or two, because to you, it's daycare for 8 hours while you fuck around. And it shouldn't be that way. So I'm challenging you to evaluate Nathan Thurm with the $10 super chat. Appreciate that, brother. I'm challenging you to evaluate what you're doing in that regard. Okay? Not judging you, because right now maybe you can't. And let's go with that. Maybe not right now. It might take you 3 months of planning to start budgeting to create a space where you can have homeschooling. We at the Solutionary Center next month will be doing a meeting on answering questions and answers about anyone for free that wants to come learn about the process of homeschooling your children. That's the purpose of us creating the Solutionary Center. And by that time, those classes will also be digital that everybody can support and be a part of. But if you're not challenging yourself to say, outside of just the violence that goes there, but again, that's less than 1%. But if it's your baby, that 1% matters. Okay? But if you're not challenging yourself to be better, you also are complicit in the silly shit. And we all know that they are not teaching our babies the thing that makes our communities and our families stable. No one's going to pretend like this ain't the case. But if you're not, in knowing that, and you're not now pushing people forward to say, I'm going to connect, I'm going to create play dates for the community with my children at a homeschool so they have that good social interaction. If you're not doing that, you are part of the problem. And you are walking your children to a government school that then tells you, you have to trust us. You have to listen to the curriculum. We're going to tell them boys that they could potentially be girls, the girls that they could potentially be boys, instead of doing the hard skills and training the teachers to be able, and the staff, not just the teachers, to be able to defend life potentially. We're arguing over gender issues, but not real world shit. So when I said I'm doing this live last night and today, I'm saying that under the concept that I don't care if you're pro-gun or anti-gun. Boots on the ground, the children that were murdered in Texas don't give a fuck about your political status. I bet you every single one of those people that lost their life would have loved that there would have been 10 people roving around that school, trained and armed to potentially defend life. And I bet you there would have been less carnage. But instead of that, we're talking about critical race theory and the blah, 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 and the da-da-da-da. Instead of that, you as parents, we as parents collectively, because I'm a part of that too, even though my child is homeschooled, okay? We are sending our children to this space. And if you feel right now that you need some time to transition them out of that space and get your finances together, tomorrow you need to be active at whatever school. I'm not just talking about the school in Texas. You need to be down there. You people in here that train, some of you people that know about close quarters combat, okay? Have you taken a moment to share some of that and create a collective group down at the local community gym to get some of those teachers that choose to volunteer? I'll help you raise money for it. That want to learn about CQB. Are you willing to say, yo, can we link up with an instructor or someone that knows what they're doing, and we can buy all of the books that deal with countering the mass shooter threat? Let's do some of this outside of the school if the school doesn't have the budget for it. Can we collectively put some of our energy together to train parents and teachers that choose to, so they can add some more information into their head? Are you actually involved in the school? Are you telling them what happens? I'm talking to the people that actually train. You have a responsibility to your community. You might not think you do, but I'm saying you do, and I'm challenging you to. We got all of this information, and we just not fucking sharing it. And you'd be surprised how many students, how many teachers that love those students, that are hamstringed by the system, that are hamstringed by the curriculum, so forth and so on. You would be surprised how many of those teachers and faculty would be open to that, especially when you hit them with raw data. There's a great book by Dr. John Lott. It's called More Guns, Less Crime, showing literally showing how the areas that have more gun control over the last 30, 40, 50 years have increasingly had more violent crime because of people like this in the school shooting in Texas, as well as Buffalo and all of these other different places. We have to engage. This is not time for us to fall back. This does not mean we trying to be here arguing with people that are just dead set. Again, I just did an interview against a lady from the Moms Demand Action. I chopped her, I chicken session wander. I chopped her argument all up. But I'm not arguing with those people. When I'm doing that media, I'm communicating with the people that are in the middle that want to do something that works. Not this whole, we have to do something. Gun control does not work. It's going to make soft targets of our babies. And we are still leaving our babies in these spaces that they can get fucking slaughtered. It's not okay. It's not okay. So let's go back to some of the things that we can help with. I'll show y'all some of the books. Emergency First Aid Fundamentals. This is by Michael Martin. Fundamentals of Emergency First Aid. Because even in a, y'all hear my Tibetan singing bowl, even in a self-defensive shooting, even if the mass shooter is, or active shooting scenario, even if that shooter is taken into custody, there's still potential casualties or people that are injured that we may be able to administer aid to. How many of you walk around with a tourniquet and a med kit? You should. You should. It should be standard operational procedure. Okay? You're more likely to come across a car accident where you could administer aid up to your level of training. Okay? Administer aid and things of that nature. Even in a shooting, you're more likely to engage someone that's potentially going to bleed out. We cannot pretend like this shit isn't a reality, because we're not going to, everybody seems to not want to have the conversation about psychotropic meds that all of the, damn near all of the mass shooters are on, because that's big pharma. That's a whole different set of money. So they're scared to have that conversation, but you can do certain things to assist. Okay? Here's another book. When Violence is the Answer. Learning how to do what it takes when your life is at stake. Does everybody see that? I want to make sure y'all writing these things down. Michael Riche, I think I'm saying that right, with a $10 super chat. I want to make sure that everybody's recognizing these books. I'm going to save this, and I'll put together a list as well. But this is very important, y'all. We can't just fall back. There's a bunch of teachers in your community right now that are praying and hoping that someone steps forward and says something that they can come engage with. Very important. Very, very important. If y'all got any questions, again, please do the super chat. This is all going towards the work. The donations, y'all already see what we do with the resources in the Solutionary Center. Today at 6 o'clock, we have a Keeping Your Business Legal course at the Solutionary Center. Okay? I want everybody that's, if you're in the city of Philadelphia, I want you to pull up. Go to solutionarylifestyle.org. Jump in, register. The class is free. All of the classes at the Solutionary Center are free. We're on the corner of 29th and Thompson. 1265 North 29th Street. It's right off of 29th and Girard. Okay? I want y'all to understand that these things, we as a community can actually give people the hard and soft skills by working together to translate what's in our head and not just running into, oh, they don't care. When I was in Buffalo, there were so many people that literally said, yeah, I'm not with because Joe Biden showed up. I'm not with the whole, like, we just need more gun control. The gun control is what puts people in these predicaments in the first place. I want to talk about one other thing real quick. How we see the pattern with shooters, and then seeing that pattern with the shooters, we can deflect against that. So the shooter in Buffalo, right? Thank you, Dana. Hey, Dana Chanel's in here. Appreciate that, sister. If you're on Instagram, hit the like button, all that other good stuff. YouTube, go share it, whatever, all of that other good stuff. All right. There's a predictability that goes about. Headless Ninja 86 caught you live last night and listening to you now. You continue to open my mind and think smarter. Thank you for that $10 super chat, Headless Ninja. There's things that we can do to mitigate the predictability that a shooter has when going into a place. The Buffalo shooter literally made a dry run of the grocery store that he went to beforehand. Okay. If that's the security guard and that security guard is armed, that's who they're going to shoot first. How we take some of that predictability away in relation to mass shootings at schools. And we have an example of it in work. And I'll share that with you guys after this. I'll tell you how this works. If all or some or 20 of the potential faculty or staff at a school are armed, like Faster Saves Lives does for the teachers in Ohio, right? If it could potentially be a janitor, if it could potentially be the principal, if it could potentially be the cook in the kitchen, if there's 14 or 15 trained and responsible gun owners roving around that school that already have licenses to carry, and we repeal those gun-free zones, now the predictability of the shooter is taken away. If I know that the one hard target is the security guard at the entrance of the Tops grocery store, that's who I'm shooting first. We snatch that predictability away by empowering people to exercise their human rights that they already have as stated in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment. We take that away. Here's another option, because I know some people will say, well, we don't want the schools to look like militarized zones. I'm willing to bet that most of those instructors would say, I'm going to conceal carry. I'm going to have a vault tech, which is a biometric safe in my classroom that no one else can get to. But if it's potentially go time, my fingerprints, boop, pops it open. I can get to the firearm and I can get busy and protect life. I'm willing to bet the instructors that do that would be volunteering for that, will be willing to conceal carry. Because I understand not wanting your child's school, if you choose to keep your child in their schools, I can understand you not wanting the school to look like a militarized zone, 100%. There's also booths that have been created. These exist. Like booths that are invisible to the eye with a whole bunch of cameras in them that they can communicate with other cells that the general public won't even know that they're there. Armed security. Never mind the fact that we have 22 veterans that commit suicide daily in America that have the training, that I'm talking about the psychologically solid ones, because I know somebody will try to throw the dumb shit in there. 22 vets that would love to sign up to take that job for $30,000 or $40,000 a year to just, I'm here to protect life if it go crazy. We just sent $40 billion to the Ukraine. I have empathy for the people, and they going through that white on white crime, that war over there, that thing. That's not America where I live. I empathize for those folks, but I can't go cleaning up nobody else's yard until the yard is clean here. We spent $40 billion sent over there. At the same time, Congress denied $40 billion that would be bailing out or helping certain businesses, small businesses and restaurants across America. Our priorities are fucked up. And our is a collective of us. Of us. The 90% stat, Nyla, on Instagram was 90% of the mass shootings in America are in gun-free zones since 1991 when the gun-free zones were created. Okay, so going back to this, we have the means to arm our faculty without making the school look like a jail, even though most of the schools already look like prisons, right? Without adding more militarization. We could hire these veterans that want something to do, that would sign up to volunteer to protect our babies. But some people are so focused on their dislike for firearms that they care more about the guns than they do the babies. These are the things that we have to call out, and we have to make ourselves available. And I'm challenging everybody. Somebody in here, Victor Diaz just said, I'm not a veteran, but highly trained and would work to protect the school. Boom. I could, in a drunken stupor, I could get you 20 people across the country that I would say, yo, bro, they're going to cut you a check. It's not much, but they want you to just, you there to protect the school. I know 20 shooters that could do that. And we collectively know this, and we collectively can be doing these things. But if we're falling back and we're just sending thoughts and prayers only, which are necessary, but faith without works, some bullshit. Get in these schools, even if it's something as basic as the NRA basic shooting pistol. Communicate with some of those instructors after this type of situation. The ones that are open, show them how to use a firearm. Tell them the actual math, because the other side will tell them things like it's 30,000 deaths per year, not telling them that there's 60% of those $30,000 deaths in relation to firearms are suicides. Not telling them that there's over 1 million defensive gun usages annually. Going back to the example that I said I'd give you guys an example of, right? Here's the example. Here's the crazy example. This is wild. This is wild. Oh, Dana's jumping in. This is a wild stat right here. There are saying view request, it won't do it. That's weird. Why won't that happen? Here's a crazy stat for you all, guys. There's over 1 million defensive gun usages annually, which means, what's up, Dana?
Hey.
How are you? Congratulations.
I know. I'm feeding her now, so I'm like listening to you.
Yeah.
And I think something that I appreciate about you, whenever I've spoken to you, you're just really open to listening and seeing both sides of any story, and then being able to go ahead and make kind of like inform your own opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't really talk much on these kind of topics, but I think as a new mom and having, all those feelings of, love for the first time, like I've never felt it before.
Yeah.
These kind of conversations are happening more than ever, that now I'm like, crap, you really don't, things happen like this and you're like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. That's sad. Like I'm praying. But then all of a sudden you're like, hold on, wait, this actually affects me. I have to think about this a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, I had children that I'm like, hold the heck up. What are my options? Because this is really scary.
Yeah.
And I don't want to seem super to the right or to the left of a decision or opinionated, because I think I'm comfortable with saying, I don't know what the heck to do right now. I'm lost.
Yeah.
I'm scared. And sometimes my fear of maybe not making the right decision or saying the wrong thing, or like, and I think on social media, everybody's, I've been getting DMs and they're like, Dana, speak on this. Like, what do you think? And I'm like, why does it matter what the heck I think? I'm just as freaking lost and confused as everybody else, trying to understand, wait, hold on. I can't trust the schools in my community to protect my children. And I'm trying to figure out what my options are too, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I just wish people were slow to just continue to give their opinion on social media and like repost all these crazy headlines. I saw all this crazy stuff on the internet and I'm like, okay, well, let me go Google and do my own research of actual articles that are being said about the investigation. And I'm like, there's barely any information at this point in time to be clear and concise. Like, you would think, going based off of social media, I mean, the whole story, we spoke to the shooter himself, letting us know what he was thinking.
Right.
And I'm like, y'all are not going to pressure me to talk about something I have no idea about yet. And so I'm just here for the parents right now, where I'm just advocating right now, like, it's okay not to know and not to understand and not even to have a plan right this second in the midst of this just happening yesterday.
Yeah.
And just being opening to listening to individuals like you who can introduce us to new ways of doing things, know? Yeah. I think a lot of people, you said something about the Solutionary Center in Philadelphia is having coming up soon an event to kind of educate parents about their options on how to homeschool. And I think that almost seems extreme or out of reach for a lot of parents. But maybe because we just don't know. Right. I personally, Maj, I have no idea what the homeschooling process looks like. Do I hire a teacher? What's the cost? Is it expensive? Can I roll that into my childcare? My mom was a single mother of 4 kids, and that's a lot of daycare money.
Yeah.
Could she have just hired us a nanny and that would have been the same amount of money? That also, maybe she just bought a curriculum online and instructed the nanny to do it, So I'm sad. And I think that's the only thing that I'm comfortable saying right now is like, I'm really, really sad that individuals are going, I couldn't imagine getting a freaking phone call. Listen, I could not imagine getting a phone call and they're saying, I have nothing to tell you at this point in time. I need to take your DNA to see if your child is dead or alive.
Right.
I could not imagine that. And right now, I don't have a freaking solution.
Yeah.
I'm just nervous and sad and disappointed. And I don't know what to think right now, Maj.
I think that that first step of being that level of honest and transparent, for those of y'all that are on the YouTube, make sure y'all listen to this. This is the homegirl Dana Chanel, Curl Bible, husband, Jumping Jack Tax. They taking over this all of the industries that we should be a part of. They're actually taking them over. So make sure y'all listening to this. The first step of saying I don't know the answer, right? Yesterday I posted that. People hit me up and was like, yo, same thing, you got to talk about this. I'm like, yo, in the last 20 minutes I've had the death toll change 4 times. So before I even have that conversation, first let's give some respect to the parents that don't even know if their children are alive. You know what I mean? And having that objective, like that's like somebody saying, like, yo, what happens when you die? I don't know. I haven't done it before. I didn't go there and like get the footage and come back and show you what exactly happens. I have an idea, you know, and so I think that's the first part of the honesty. And I think that also this talking point, like, if anyone is to just say guns are the full answer, they're wrong. They're wrong and they're liars. Because it's not just like, you know, if it was just a gun, the retired officer in the top store had a gun. So if it was just one guy with a gun that would have solved it, that would have been solved. That's not the only answer. I think sometimes we forget that we are allowed to have nuance. We are allowed to have layers. We are allowed to have contextual conversations about what do some of these answers look like to solve these problems. There's stories coming out that the young man was frustrated that he was bullied because he wore blue hair and all of this other different stuff. That speaks to a conversation about, are we making our young people feel whole? I'm not saying don't challenge our young people and give them all participation trophies, but that's a component of that answer, right? And I think that having the bravery to say, yo, bro, I don't know just right now. What I do know is, let's look at the data. I do know that if the overwhelming majority of when mass shooters are engaged, they either kill themselves or they are taken into custody. And then when we have that concurrent theme, we go, okay, are we doing enough to protect our children? For the thing that becomes frustrating to me is even the politicians just to show up and say the same exact thing. And I'm saying politician, pro-gun politician or anti-gun politician. If you just rush to your talking point, and that talking point is like just to fit your narrative, you're not actually thinking about the families, the children, and stopping this from actually happening in the future. And I think that's a disservice to everybody. So I 100% hear you, and I appreciate you for saying, yo, bro, I'm sad because, again, as a dad, you know, I didn't know how to swim a couple of months ago. And you know what I'm saying? And I put my daughter in swimming classes, and I was like, if she gets in your pool at home and if something happens, you can't do anything, bro. So I immediately went to get over that whole, you know, black people don't swim. Got to get over that. Got to get over that. And so I just appreciate you, because similarly, I was like, yeah, I don't know how to swim. Yeah, that's so stupid, you know? And so saying this to say, I just appreciate you for tapping in and being honest to the mothers, because I could sound like, oh, he's the gun dude, right? But as a mom, a new mom, again, congratulations, a new mom again, tapping in to give that perspective to folks. I truly, truly, truly appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to say you don't understand, but just make sure you're following up with, but I'm willing to educate myself to figure out what the heck are my options. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think more so as well, as I'm seeing everybody like just give their opinion on social media. You know, everyone's giving us their hardcore, you know, if this was the case, then this wouldn't have happened, and this, you know, and I just think that depending on who you are as an individual and how much responsibility you'd like to take and what you're comfortable with changes that answer of a solution for everyone. Yeah. You know, I know people like, you know, I think of my mom loving her children just as much as I do, right? And I think, okay, well, is the gun solution her, you know, bearing arms in her home and having them in her home? Does that make her, does she feel comfortable doing something like that? Does she feel comfortable taking on that level of responsibility? Yeah. You know, other moms may, and other moms are like, you know what? Like, I want to do anything to protect my babies, but like, I don't think I feel comfortable with carrying a gun around. I would feel more comfortable with giving someone else that responsibility and me being able to call on them. Like that would make me feel better. And so I'm just in a whirlwind of like reading people's opinions, and I'm like, bro, there's not one answer for everybody, because a comfort level of like, you know, me as an individual, I feel comfortable carrying a gun on my hip, and I feel comfortable with myself enough to say, okay, I know the 3 A's, my 3 A's of life. Once again, this is very objective to me. Is it subjective or objective? I don't know. But like, you know, I feel confident in myself that when a scenario is happening, you know, I live my life based off the 3 A's. Like, 1, I have to be aware, you know. 2, I assess the situation to see if that's something that I should, you know, engage in. And then action. I believe, you know, okay, I'll tell you a crazy story. We're out of graduation. Our brother just graduated, right?
Yeah.
And this woman is walking during the graduation, and she falls and slams her face into the pavement. Now, so many people turn their heads to look, and but only a few actually literally ran up and got out their seat to pick her up and actually help her, call somebody to get tissues. Yeah. And those are 2 very different people.
Yes.
And me and Don, you know, me and my husband, we like looked at each other and we were like, we didn't see her fall quick enough before we could actually do something. We're the type of people, like, my husband's the type of person where he will immediately act if he saw something happen like that. Some people are more comfortable not taking that responsibility and watching if maybe no one was there to help, they'd call the cops or wait for help. But based off of your knowledge, your experience, and your confidence in yourself and what you're capable of doing, you know, I know CPR. I would never try to administer CPR to someone if I didn't know how to do it.
Right.
So I just think that people are willing to take action based off of their experience and their comfort level. And I just encourage anybody watching this, you really have to sit down with yourself and your family and assess in the family and with yourself, what kind of individual are you? Right. Are you an action-oriented person, or you are a support person?
Right.
And be comfortable with that, but also be comfortable with what happens when you're neither or one or the other, you know? Right. Personally, just me in a situation like that, I feel a little bit more comfortable taking action. Yeah. You know, if I see something happening, definitely, like, I'm willing to speak up and say something. Once again, based off of my experience and my career and my confidence with speaking to people, I feel like I can make a difference. But I know that there are people walking around that feel like maybe their opinion or what they can do doesn't make a difference. And so please, I just ask everyone, before you give your opinion on this social media site, you just evaluate who you are and what you're comfortable with, but also comfortable with the consequences of who you think and who you say you are and what you're not and what you are willing to do. You know, I just know a lot of people who are willing to, you know, have a gun in their home and protect their home, but not willing to carry it on their person and engage in something out in the open. And those are 2 different people.
100%. 100%. Can you tell everybody where they can follow you? Obviously here, but how can they support Curl Bible and all of that other good stuff? Wait, you on maternity leave? You ain't doing nothing right now, huh?
Well, you're breaking up a little bit, but what I will say is, what I do doesn't matter right now. And all I say is, the reason why I got on here is for you to please, just anyone listening, just evaluate how is it that you're doing life. And if there's something that you want to change and something's making you uncomfortable, bro, like, please, just for a second, like, I'm begging you, if there's one thing that you could do for me, I don't care. Don't spend money with my businesses. Just sit down in your bathroom in a corner and write down what you want out of life.
100%.
And if one day, if you want the actual ability to never come across a situation where you're getting a phone call from your kid's school, or that mass text message saying, hey, there's been a shooting at your children's school, then create a solution.
No doubt.
If there's one day where you want to sit and maybe your house gets burglarized and you want to be able to protect your family, okay, create a solution. Yeah. What are you going to do about it? You don't want to do anything? That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm do that. But please just sit alone. Get off this social media site. Just give yourself 30 minutes to think about the way that you desire to protect yourself and what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And then just, with all due respect, keep your comments to yourself.
Right.
If you're not willing to do anything.
Right. Right.
That's all that I say. Because I'm just tired of people trying to give this unspewed, uneducated kind of like
drivel.
They know the answers to the world, and they really don't.
100%.
And so I just thank you for educating, Maj, and I'm grateful for you. I know that you have extraordinary resources in the city of Philadelphia, but also like broadcast them and stuff like that to help us, just challenge our thought process. Ain't nobody wants your opinions, no. But I thank y'all so much, and I just say on here for everyone, if you don't have the answers, it's okay to be quiet and not have the answers, but just go look for them.
Right, 100%. All right, Dana. I see you in a bit.
I obviously got to get out of here. Yeah. But thank you so much,
I appreciate you.
And thank you so much for the information. You really were breaking a lot of things down that really helped me understand the situation and a shooter's perspective as well. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I'll talk to you in a bit.
Bye.
All right, peace. See y'all getting all kinds of extra treats. You know what I'm saying? For everybody that was on the YouTube, that's still on the YouTube, thank you so much. We're gonna go back over everything real quick, real briefly. Again, first, if you choose to take your child out of the public school systems, there are resources for homeschooling. Please look into that. If you choose not to, I understand that. What I will ask you to do is challenge yourself to look at, am I not doing it because the money issue, or I haven't even researched it enough, or maybe you're okay with public schools. Maybe you don't think that it's an indoctrination camp, or maybe it's a certain amount of indoctrination that you're okay with because you teach your child at home as well. But with that being the case, we have at the Solutionary Center that will be made available digitally as well. Solutionarylifestyle.org is the website. We will have an event where people can come and learn from professional, like they have an entire community in Philadelphia of homeschoolers. And a lot of this information it translates beyond just Philadelphia. Okay, so that's very important. In regards to people that are instructors, that do train, that do know about some of these books. And before I leave, I will make sure that we give you all of the books all over again. Okay. If you are an instructor, I want you, or a parent, or just learning about this, if you feel as if you want your community or your schools to have armed guards or vets or anything like that, please reach out. There's an organization called 22. I'll find out the actual name, but it's 22 something. But it speaks to the 22, or helps the 22 veterans that commit suicide daily, that we could tap into that as a resource to maybe even raise some funds to finance some of those men that want to protect our schools. That's another option. That can be done outside of just the school system. While you're operating within that school system, or your local school or your school, you should be going to those school board meetings, right? Saying, hey, this is what we want. This is the data. This is what we found. And we found out that this is 100% better. If you're an instructor, please speak to your teachers and educators about licenses to carry, about training, so forth and so on. Share the information about what this run, hide, barricade, and fight. I understand that there's a general understanding of what that means, but we need to be a little bit more specific. What does that mean in these scenarios? A lot of these educators will be open to dealing with some training in force on force, and CQB, which is close quarters battle, room clearing, and firearms ownership, as well as just something as simple as, what's a biometric safe? My Instagram went out, y'all. I'm going to share that. What's a biometric safe? What's all of these other different things that are very, very important? Make sure you're making yourself a service to those folks to make sure that they know that they have options, okay? As well as learn more about what the hypothalamus does. Learn more about what cortisol does to the extremities. Learn more about what adrenaline does in those scenarios, and sharing that with people as they start to train. It's very, very important. Lastly, I'm going to go over this list of books. We have another one, Training for Sudden Violence. This is also by Rory Miller, 72 practical drills to deal with, you don't get to pick where fights show up at, okay? Beyond OODA. OODA is the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act. Varg Freeborn wrote this book called Developing the Orientation for Deception, Conflict, and Violence. And I'll go over this list again. This is a very basic book, but it's the basics of pistol shooting. You should get and have and share that. When Violence is the Answer, written by Tim Larkin. Okay, learning how to do what it takes when your life is at stake. Okay, Emergency First Aid, put together by Michael Martin. You can pick this up for United States Concealed Carry Association. Just dealing with emergency first aid, because everything might not necessarily be a shooting. It could be a car accident. You can do things like Dana was saying, up to your level of skill set and training that you feel comfortable with, that will allow you to participate in rendering aid and potentially saving life. Okay. Dr. John Lott, More Guns, Less Crime. The statistics to 20, 30, maybe even 40 years now of the data that deals with the areas that have more safe and responsible firearms owners having less violent crime. Again, as stated in the Texas scenario and even more stated in the Buffalo shooting, these guys are picking places that they know there's only soft targets. Okay. Another great book put together by Michael Martin of the United States Concealed Carry Association, Countering the Mass Shooter Threat, a comprehensive playbook for every house of worship, school, business, and family in America. Very important book that I recommend everyone get. United States Marine Corps Close Combat Manual. It's a little bit older and it gets a little bit gruesome, but it's very good to have for hands-on if you happen to go hands-on and non-lethal. Okay. Building Entry and Clearing Room Tactics. These are the foundational principles of doing that. Okay. Foundational principles of that. Again, we got some more last two by Sergeant Rory Miller. We got Meditations on Violence, a comparison of martial arts training and real world violence. Real world violence. This happens in the real world. And Facing Violence, Preparing for the Unexpected. Ethically, emotionally, physically, and without going to prison. Again, everyone, thank you for your time. We had two lives in one. I'm going to save this live. I appreciate you all. Please go over to the website, solutionarylifestyle.org. Grab as much information as you can. Sign up for the classes. I will be over at the center shortly. We are having a Keep Your Business Legal class today at 6 p.m. And we got firearms on Saturday. We might have to cancel that because I may still be in California. But nonetheless, sign up for the classes. The firearms classes are Wednesday and Saturdays. They are weekly. Yoga classes are Tuesday and Thursday. They are weekly. Go to the website, solutionarylifestyle.org. And again, we're obviously asking you guys to support the work. If we could get everybody that's in all of these lives, right, to donate $25. Our daily goal is $125 donors. Go buy some merch and all of that stuff too. But we love to get to that goal of what we need to have. Okay. GiveSendGo.com/solutionary. GiveSendGo.com/solutionary. Everybody in here, please just go donate $25. To everybody that gave a super chat, I appreciate you tremendously. And yeah, sign up for the classes. The classes are free. We need all of the work and support we can get. Thank you all for listening. Be safe. Be solutionary.